Well, thank
Uh, it's not like anything happened in wrestling this week.
No, nothing at all.
Pretty flat week.
Well, do we want to open up with the obvious?
Phil?
Yeah, good old Phil.
Love it.
Jobless Phil.
No, he won't be out of work for long. I'll tell you that much.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I guess we might as well just start with that. Do you think the doofus son-in-law would be receptive to bringing him back into the fold for WWE?
Me?
Either one.
100%.
Yeah.
It'll happen by November, guaranteed.
No, Kevin, you're hesitating.
I want to see him back, and I want to see him back sooner rather than later. I think that it was earlier today. I read an article that said that there was plans in the works if he were to leave AEW earlier, that he might have been back for the 2023 Royal Rumble, which would have worked out. I mean, would have worked out just fine for me. I would have been happy with that. Do I want to see him back? Yes, and I want to see him back like right away. Are they going to be open and receptive to having back? Probably. And I think that he probably does much better in that setting than in the what seems to be somewhat of a lawless setting in AEW.
Agreed 100%, because CM Punk, despite the tenure and the longevity that he has, won't get away with anything, even if it's not his fault, won't get away with anything like he did in AEW than he will in WWE. Because there are people there that will smack his face up if so be it, like he gets out of line. So,
right.
But I don't think he would do that, because I think he's also that smart where he would know not to ruffle the feathers there.
Mm-hmm.
So AEW is like, all right, whatever. Like, it's a fucking fun house. So, like, do whatever you want, and you can't get in trouble for it. Whereas WWE, you can get in trouble for it, and we also won't pay you, and you also can't go work anywhere else.
Right.
For, 180 days or whatever. So,
I would, like I say, I'm all for him coming back. All for him coming. But Tony, what do you think? What are your?
That's a great call.
100%. I agree. He should come back. I think he would fit in better, of course, in WWE. I think it's a better situation that he was fired for everybody. I think it's better for him. It opens him up, a better opportunity, I think, as far as he's concerned. I think AEW, whether or not they were really receptive to CM Punk trying to help them out, they seem to just be kind of set in their ways, and that's the way it's going to be. So somebody coming in like a CM Punk, who definitely was not, don't get me wrong, everybody's there for a paycheck, but I think even CM Punk made it known, like, he was there he wants to help. And if you cut that out from under him, then he's just another performer. And I think it was better for both sides. There's a lot that happened leading to that decision that left a bad taste in my mouth. But, I think in terms of the results,
like what?
It was the only real way to go,
Like what? What left a bad taste in your mouth?
Well, I listened to Jim Cornette's show from yesterday because he had an entire follow-up, because he's a huge CM Punk fan, like huge. That's all he talks about with AEW and what a great job Collision was doing. And, clearly it was Punk's influence on the show, and just a big fan. But they got into a lot of the behind the scenes apparently. And I don't know if it's been out there in other, in other forums, but there was supposed to be some sort of meeting they were putting together before everybody left for England, where CM Punk was going to sit down with Tony Khan, with the Young Bucks. I think they were going to finally like squash everything. This was supposed to happen in Atlanta before they left, because CM Punk at one point had posted that he was in Atlanta with his wife and Larry, just chilling out before they left for the pay-per-view. Why were they in Atlanta? They were there for this meeting, which got canceled after Punk had left and went to Atlanta for the meeting. So it's kind of like, why did that get canceled? Then apparently, I don't know if it was before or after his appearance at the pay-per-view, somebody in the transportation department kind of fucked him over, where his transportation either to or from the venue wasn't there, so he wound up having to try to get an Uber, which he couldn't get because it was the fucking show. he wound up trying to take the tunnel, the tubes, whatever they call them in England, the subway. and he got lost. So a couple of fans saw him and helped him out to get back to his hotel or whatever. So it just seems like somebody was kind of putting the Iggy like, hey, we don't fucking want to make this easy on this guy. Now, I don't know. I'm not there, but this is what I've been hearing and what's been out there. So
I don't think anyone there is that bright to do that, to be honest with you. I don't even think Tony Khan is that bright to like put the kibosh on somebody like in that sort of way.
Well, I also heard the person that was in the trans was like a friend of the Young Bucks. So this guy had his job because Matt and Nick were his boys. So not saying he was told to do it. I wouldn't put it past him for thinking of it himself or herself, but that's kind of what's been going around with this.
So
and apparently
what makes no sense to me, Tony, is that, and Kevin, is that like Tony Khan hired CM Punk. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were still executive vice presidents then. They brought him in, and like, so the fact that like he's like gone right now, like, and they had like, they're smarter than this. They would know what to do with Punk. If it just does, none of it makes sense. Is what it is. None of it makes sense.
I wanted to ask you guys. You guys read the press release that Khan put out, of course. This disciplinary committee, is anybody like? It's got to be the fucking Bucks and Omega, right? Like, there's no actual disciplinary committee. It's got to be those fucking kids.
Is it not an independent firm that is coming in?
Or that came in because it's over.
Yeah. No, but an independent firm would take a little bit more time than that, would they not?
Unless they just decided, like, hey, let's avoid all this and let's just part ways.
This is all lawyer speak. You can't tell me that. And I would hope that Tony Khan would get on TV or even put out a statement that says, I was fearful for my life. I mean, that's lawyer speak, dude. That's like, we know there's a lawsuit coming for breach of contract, so we have to have an airtight excuse or reason to let him out of his contract for a cause. And I bet you there's one where, any kind of like physical violence or aggression or whatnot. And plus, I've also heard that after the scrum last year and the fight that happened after the scrum, apparently Punk signed some sort of deal where he wasn't allowed to get physical backstage with anyone. I don't know how true that is, but if this is written into his contract, it's a whole lot of lawyer speak, because I would hope to God that Tony Khan wouldn't put this out there like to try to get himself sympathy, because he clearly didn't get sympathy when he did this in front of the crowd at the pay-per-view this weekend.
That was great. I love when he came out and they booed the piss out of him.
The statement should have simply been, if I was Tony Khan, like, hey, we've came to terms with the release of CM Punk. We want to thank him for his time here. We want to wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors, or however you want to phrase it. But we're here to bring you the best in wrestling, and that's what we're going to do tonight, and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
They clearly threw in the fearful for my life because there's some lawyerese behind that. And somebody from the legal team said, you better cover your ass and make sure we got a fucking airtight reason for releasing you. That's what it was.
Even though it's on TV and it could be considered an act, you better just say it just in case.
Does that footage ever make light, Tony?
I kind of hope not, but I mean, if it's said and done, what would be the purpose? But if this does go to court, it would probably have to, right? Yep.
What would actually go to court? CM Punk filing for wrongful termination?
Yeah, breach of contract. Yeah, wrongful termination, wants him to pay out the rest of his contract. I mean, if he's interested in doing that, he can.
There's no chance he does that, I don't think.
No, you're right. He probably doesn't. And I think I would agree with you there that he's probably just, he wants to move on.
Yeah.
But, because the only other time he was tied up in a lawsuit was when the doctor from the WWE was suing him.
Right.
So I don't think he would pursue anything legally. But if he did, then it would clearly have to come in, because if there's footage of exactly what happened, they'd want to put that in front of a jury. And if they see him goozling fucking Jungle Boy.
So the only way I could see that possibly happening is if there was like a civil thing filed against him where he would want to see it. So then he could file the charge against AEW for the wrongful termination to benefit his case in any sort of physical or civil, like with him and Jungle Boy.
Oh yeah. I don't think there's anything criminal coming out of this, to be honest with you. I mean, there might be, like, if Jack Perry was like the victim of assault, maybe, but you'd have to have the police there and have an investigation at the time. I don't.
There would have to be an initial report at the time that was made and filed, which is like that's like the first step in doing this sort of thing.
And plus, this is England.
Better than anybody. It's like the more you can have just in case on your side, or even if it's not on your side, if it's just there, is the better for you for discovery and for all that stuff.
That's a good. I never even thought about that, Tony. Like you said, it was England. Does that bear anything over this? The incident taking place in England?
The only thing that you can say is that you'd have to hopefully ask them or subpoena, the stadium. Yeah. Hey, we need the footage. Now, how long do they keep the footage? Do they say, like, hey, there might be some criminal or civil stuff coming out of this, let's save the footage? And on top of that, you have to look into what the reach of the subpoena is, because you could subpoena people all over the world. You could send a subpoena to whoever you want. Whether or not they actually respond or have to respond is a whole other story. So it's all up in the air.
There are certain retention times for certain things.
Yeah, but that's in the U.S. We don't know what, like what the U.K. does for stuff like that.
So, like, Handsome Kevin, like, say, like, you were involved in an incident, and, like, you wanted body camera footage from this incident from those said officers. If there's only a certain amount of time that is held, so, like, you can't get that. But, like, surveillance footage, if that's as evidence and there's a request to save it, at least where I work, you can keep it for as long as you want. Like, it's just depending on whether or not somebody wants it at some point. At some point, it does get destructed.
Yeah, and you would think, like, with this whole investigation, that I would assume Tony Kahn maybe had legal counsel send them a letter saying, hey, we need this footage, and maybe they complied. I mean, if I was doing an investigation, that's what I would have done.
Right. Well, so there's two different schools of thought here. Like, the establishment could either voluntarily submit it to you. There's a form that you can have them fill out if it's not readily available at the time, and then they send it to you, and then you go and pick it up, or they could just, or you could subpoena it, like you said. But the thing is, though, the police have to do that. Like, if someone who was the victim of that crime goes to said venue and says, "Hey, I want the surveillance video," you can't. The surveillance, like, they have no obligation to give that to you.
No, they don't. They can, but they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, wow, but man. I mean, so if it was the police and it was a police investigation, yeah, you can. If you have a case pending, you could absolutely send a subpoena, and the judge could even sign off on a subpoena as well. Correct. Like once you bring a suit, you have the power to subpoena whatever you want. It's just a matter of there's that extra little caveat that you're reaching overseas now to a different country.
Yeah.
Do they have an obligation to respond to a foreign subpoena? I don't know. Can a court here force them to answer the subpoena? I mean, I would assume so, because the United Kingdom and the United States have a good relationship. Maybe there's something there. I don't know. It's rough.
I think we're putting a lot of... it's a great conversation, but I think we're putting a lot before the horse here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We have no idea. And like you said earlier, I don't think CM Punk brings this up. I think he's happy to be out of this. Now, since it's a breach of contract, I don't know what the contract says. What kicks in? Is Punk free to go to show up wherever he wants tonight? Tomorrow? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know.
I think I texted you guys, man. If he showed up at Payback, I would have had a boner so big he could eaten a full pizza off of. I was, and why not? Like if he can, right? If he can,
for sure.
And they were already in talks to bring him in prior to him going to AEW. I mean, if he's got no compete, man, get after it. Get his ass there. Get his ass there.
Does anybody know that? Does anybody know if he has that or not? Has that not been made clear?
We don't know.
I have read so many different articles, and none of them have mentioned whether or not they can confirm a no compete. So
I say you bring him if Survivor Series, which I'm like 99.9% sure is in Chicago. You bring him in there, and dude, like I'm all for Cody Rhodes finishing the story and beating Roman Reigns, but if you have CM Punk, Roman Reigns, bro, here for it. Yeah. Here for it, and let CM Punk maybe not beat him in Chicago in November, but start that story.
I don't even know. I don't even know if I necessarily would want to see him with Cody more than I would want to see him with Seth Rollins.
Who, Roman?
No, CM Punk.
Oh no, yeah, I would take that too.
I mean, they're both Ring of Honor guys, you know.
Yeah. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn.
Well, now that they're not tied down with the titles anymore,
right?